Hello, everyone. Those of you that are hopefully watching this recording later and those of you that are with us live, I am Rayna Erasmus. I am the program manager and show secretary for the Retired Racehorse Project and Thoroughbred Makeover, and I am joined by Kristen Bentley, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yes, hello, I'm Kristen Bentley. I'm the communications manager for the Retired Racehorse Project, a makeover veteran myself from the class of 2018, which makes me feel very old now. And I do a lot of the promotion and marketing for all of your marketplace listings to get them out into the world for everybody else to see. So between the two of us, we're going to go through the process of how to actually do the nuts and bolts part of putting together your marketplace listing, as well as some sort of best practices and tips and tricks for making your listing stand out to bring those buyers to the makeover to come see your horse. So Rayna's going to kick things off.
Sweet. Yes. You might see me looking at my phone. I've got some notes on my phone about the different marketplace listing tiers. But to get started, we're going to go over how to access your marketplace listing. So first things first, you're going to have to complete your final entry form. We have gone over that in a previous webinar. That is on our YouTube channel. So please go ahead and access that. So once you complete your final entry form and you indicate that you want your horse to be in the marketplace, if you are actually a makeover competitor, which I am not, so my portal looks a little bit different, you'll scroll down, and instead of this checklist here, you're going to see the My Entries section. Again, I've stolen this from one of our lovely competitors that emailed the screenshot to me this morning. So you'll scroll down to My Entries. You'll see your horse right here, and you'll use the drop-down menu next to your horse to select the option that says Create Horse Listing, I believe. So the other way to access it, which is the way that I'm going to do it today, but I don't recommend doing it this way so you know that you're doing it for the correct horse, is you go to the My Horses tab, scroll down to My Thoroughbreds. My horse that I'm going to do today is Bourbon and Beer, and you're going to select the Update/Create Horse Listing. So just to go over that one more time quickly, if you are a Thoroughbred Makeover competitor, after you filled out your final entry form, have selected that you want your horse listed in the marketplace and have selected which listing type you would like, you've paid for it, you're going to then submit your final entry form, go in, and separately you're going to have to actually create the listing for it. So the best way to do that is scroll down to your My Entries section, go to your horse, use the drop-down menu next to your horse, not next to yourself, and select the Update/Create Horse Listing, hit go, and that's going to bring you to the form. So using it from the My Thoroughbred section, I'm going to do the same thing, Update/Create Horse Listing, hit go. And a brief intro before we get into the form for those of you that do not know. The Thoroughbred Makeover Marketplace, which is made possible by a grant from the ASPCA, is an opportunity for thoroughbred makeover trainers to list their horses that they're competing in the makeover for sale. It's exclusive to makeover horses and makeover eligible horses for ASPCA right horse partners. But 2024 makeover horses in general, it's open to all of you if you are selling your horse. If you are not selling your horse, you are not required to list your horse in the marketplace. This is just a lovely exclusive option that we give you all. There is both a digital and a print catalog. The print catalog will be included in the 2024 Thoroughbred Makeover event program, which will be distributed at the event. And there are three different, listing options. So the standard listing is $60. That's going to get you included in both the online and the print sale catalog. Your horse will be listed in an RRP social media album and will be identified as a marketplace horse throughout the event. And that will include a green logo on their bridle tag, on their stall card, on our entries list online, in the makeover catalog, etc. So anywhere your horse's name is listed leading up to the event, once you've paid for your marketplace fee, your horse will be advertised as being available for sale and being listed through the marketplace. That is the standard listing. That's the basic tier that you get for every single listing. The next one is $95. That's the featured listing. All the same amenities that we just discussed, plus priority listing in the digital catalog. So you'll be up higher on the list. You will have an individual listing shared on the RRP social media. So rather than being in a group album, you'll have your own post. I believe that's the correct way to put that. Kristen, correct me
Yeah,
if
it'll
I'm
be in both. So it's going to go into the group album, which is all dropped together, and then it's also going to get its own post.
awesome.
Independent at the same time.
And then your horse will also be featured at least twice throughout the week of the makeover on our big LED board in the covered arena. And then the highest listing tier we offer is the premium listing. That's $110 per horse. And that features, again, all the same amenities as the standard listing and the featured listing, with the addition of a prominent half-page catalog ad with a larger photo in the print ad, in the print catalog, and as well as the LED board. So I believe that covers everything that the listings will provide to you. As I've already said, you're going to confirm through the final entry form if you want your horse listed in the marketplace. After you confirm that, you'll have to go through and submit this form that we're about to go through in order for the listing to actually be created. If you pay for it and never create a listing, your horse is not going to be listed in the catalog. We don't have any of those details from you in order to do that. If you want your horse in the print catalog, you have to fill out this form before August 15th. August 15th is the deadline to get this form in. If you pay for your listing and you don't do this before the 15th, your horse will not be in the print catalog. You will still have the opportunity to go ahead and fill this out and be a part of the digital catalog, but you will not be in print. And RRP reserves the right to request trainers to modify their ad or provide different photos in any instance where we deem it to be appropriate. So with all that to be said, I'm going to get into the form. Kristen, unless you have anything to add about the process and the listing tiers.
I do just want to, I typed an answer to Wendy. She added something in the chat or in the Q&A. Is there any data about which listing option is more successful and or a price bracket? And Wendy, I'm assuming you're talking about like pricing the actual horse, which we'll get into a little bit later. We don't have data compiled right now about, you know, outcomes versus like premium listing versus standard listing. And one of the reasons for that is that it is really reliant on the trainers self-reporting their sales. And unfortunately, it is a little difficult for us to always track that information down. So if you do sell a horse, please do report your sale. Even if you are watching this and you sold last year's horse, please report your sale, because that data is really helpful to us to help you guys all make, you know, the best decisions for the best outcome for your money. So that feels like a pass the buck answer, but there's no other mechanism by which we can capture that data. So hopefully that is somewhat helpful, Wendy.
Great point. Thank you. So first on the form are the registration numbers. These will all be auto-populated if you've already supplied this to us through either your horse's registration form or through the final entry form. All of your horses, if you're competing in the makeover, need a Jockey Club registered microchip. So this should already be here. You've already submitted your final entry form. That's a required part of that process. Your tip number, if you have one. None of these down here are required. The Jockey Club registered microchip is required as part of the other processes, but these are not required. If you have them, you can share them. It will help sellers look up your horse's record. So that's your tip number if you have one, your USEF, the horse's USEF number if they have one. You can put the tattoo number if you have it. I'm sure most of you will not. And if your horse is showing under a different name than their Jockey Club name, you'll definitely want to put that here as well. And then we have the listing type information, which is what we've just gone over. Right over here, it explains a little bit the differences between our normal standard listings and the marketplace listings. And then it gives you the option to select here. So this is obviously where you're going to select the ASPCA Makeover Marketplace. You are entering your horse in the marketplace. They are not a future makeover prospect or a graduate quite yet. This is not an open ad. You want your horses listed in the exclusive ASPCA Marketplace. So when asked for the listing type, you're going to select ASPCA Makeover Marketplace. And then this is your online description. This is where you can tell us all about your horse, what they're good at, what they've been doing. Just like you would any other standard listing. Kristen's going to get into it a little bit later. But this is unlimited in characters. This can be as long as you want, as detailed as you want. And then the print description or magazine description, as it says here, is limited in characters. This is 150 characters for the print layout. That's going to be a smaller, just little square in the catalog. So we can't give you guys unlimited space to say whatever you want. So this is where you're going to really want to highlight things that won't already be in the print catalog. So we will already obviously know your horse's name. I believe their height, their, what they're entered in, what they show potential for, all that kind of stuff. So really focus on things that are not going to be covered by the other fields on this ad. Keep it short and sweet. Anything to add there, Kristen, or do you want to get into that a little bit later?
Nope, I think that nails it. So I have an example of the print catalog. This is the 2022, just because it was what was on top of my stack next to my desk. So I might show this more when we're not screen sharing, because otherwise this is going to be like an inch tall and no one's going to be able to see it. But I can show you guys a little bit of what the bigger listing looks like versus the regular quarter page. But already in every single one of these listings is going to be the horse's bridle number, their jockey club name, age, height, color, gender, bloodline information. That's all in there. So yeah, don't waste that space repeating like 16-hand chestnut mare. Like, we know that. So you only get 150 characters. So skip all that stuff and just get right to the good stuff that's going to, you know, grab buyers' eyes.
Sweet. So after you write out your descriptions, both your online description and your magazine description, you will want to check the boxes of what you believe your horse shows potential for. So I'm talking about my horse, Bourbon. I'm an amateur. I'm definitely going to check that that horse is amateur friendly. Right now we do dressage and eventing. We do show jumpers. I think he could probably be a pretty good hunter. I think that he could be a good fox hunter. So this is where anything that you think your horse shows potential for, even if you're not exactly doing that with them right now, you can go ahead and check those boxes. If you think they're junior friendly, amateur friendly, and the different disciplines that you believe that they would thrive in. And the current training status. So for you all, hopefully they're not immediately off the track. Hopefully they don't need rehab. They should be in the retraining process. So you're going to school down, you're going to skip kind of down to here. You either have lightly restarted if they've only had 30 to 90 days of post-track training, but more than 15 rides, schooling, so some local competition, off-farm mileage, if they're relatively seasoned, so riding competitive partner established, rated / recognized show record. So most of you will probably be somewhere between schooling and season. Schooling is probably a safe bet for our makeover horses here. And we have some options for you guys to include video links. These links will obviously not be in the print catalog, but the print catalog will include a QR code so people can access your online listing where they will be able to access these links. So if you have videos of your horses under saddle, lunging, at a show, all the different things to show them off. We know that sellers want to see videos, so please be sure to include your links here. They have to include the beginning of the URL. So you can include up to 4 links, which is great. Simple. Do you have vetting on file for this horse? Let us know, yes or no. What those, if you select yes, what do you have on file? Do you have radiographs, flexions, all that kind of stuff that you'd be willing to share with other people? And if you have other, you can describe that as well. Do they have any previously known injuries? So if you have rehabbed them, anything, you can select yes. We ask you that you be as honest as possible here. So anything they might have, go ahead and let the people know. So I can select yes for my horse, other, and I cannot think of anything off the top of my but he has definitely had some previously known injuries.
I thought we were going to learn a lot about Bourbon and you were just going to rattle off other injuries.
Well, let's see, some colics, some choke. We don't need to get on to that, but he's mine and he's not going anywhere. So no one else has to deal with that. The price type. So is your horse for sale? Are they for adoption? Lease really shouldn't apply to you all for the ASPCA Makeover Marketplace. This is for horses that are for sale or for adoption only. So, I mean, at least
a note on the language there. Sale would be for, your average just professional or adult amateur or even junior, who's just looking to sell the horse. And adoption, that language generally refers to like a 501c3 organization that is adopting horses with some form of contract or, do not sell clause or like whatever that specific organization has. So sometimes people throw around the phrase adoption, sometimes it's to work around the Facebook algorithm that flags anything that says sell. Sometimes it's to make people feel like it's gentler than selling, but the specification here is adoption is for an organization, sale is for a business or an individual. So
yes.
Don't be afraid to put your horse for sale. That is the whole reason we're here.
Yeah. And that's a great point. We do have Mid-Atlantic and other organizations that have horses that are currently up for adoption that bring those horses and compete them in the makeover. Those are the ones that would select adoption. If you are a private seller, you are going to select sale. And then the price/fee. So what would you like to sell your horse for? Obviously, that's what you're going to put here. My horse is not for sale, so we're going to aim pretty high here. Please don't do that, though. If you are listing your horse in the marketplace, please be doing that because you actually want to sell them and list them for the price that you are willing to sell them for. This is a very, very important data point for us. Kristen, I'm sure we'll get into that later. I don't want to speak too much about that yet, but we've had that happen in the past. Please enter your horse in the marketplace if you do intend to sell them or adopt them out, and be prepared to list them for what you believe to be a reasonable price. Let us know if the price is negotiable or not. Again, bourbon, you can pry bourbon out of my cold dead hands, so price is not negotiable. Are trials allowed? No, potentially yes, up to you. For the ASPCA Makeover Marketplace, if people come to the makeover to try your horse, there is a dedicated arena for them to try those horses in. We have the ASPCA Makeover Marketplace trial arena. Anyone that's trying your horse will need to go fill out a waiver at our info desk. They'll get a wristband and then they can try your horse in the arena. That gives them a great opportunity to see the horse in a pretty different setting than, just going to your farm and trying them. But a trial is different than coming to try the horse, obviously, but figured I would throw that out there as I did not touch on that earlier. Then the current location of the horse. So I am here in Crofton, Maryland. So I'm going to do my city as Crofton and my state as Maryland, if I can find it. There we go. And photos. Kristen is going to get into the importance of good photos here. You can add up to 4 photos in your listing. I believe photo 1 will be the photo that is most likely to be prioritized in the print catalog. However, in years past, our staff has handpicked the best photo if they feel like photo number 1 is maybe not it for the print catalog. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Kristen, but whatever photo you would like to be featured in the print catalog, because if you're doing the standard listing or the featured listing, you're only going to have 1 photo. Might be the same for the other one, it's just bigger. Either way, choose your best photo for the print catalog. The digital catalog, you can have up to 4, and you can choose your files and insert them here. And then you're going to let us know who owns the horse. So are you selling this horse on behalf of yourself, or are you a trainer and you are selling this horse on behalf of the owner? You're going to let us know here and fill out the correct information. So I'm going to select myself, but for anyone that's maybe selling for somebody else, you're going to select other if it's not their racing connection. If they have a business name, you're going to give that to us, but you need to supply us with the current owner's first name, last name, and email. We would also very much appreciate their phone number. And then the primary contact information for this listing. So this is who should be contacting, who the person interested in purchasing your horse should be contacting for more information. So if that's you, the person creating this listing, you'll put yourself. If it's the owner that you've just defined up here, you will select the owner. And that's going to be where it's very important to supply a phone number so they can get in contact with them pretty easily. Or if it's another agent, if neither yourself nor the owner is dealing with the sale itself, you can select other agent and provide that information as well. So as you can see, it's a relatively short and straightforward form. So once you fill out all your sections as thoroughly as possible, you'll go ahead and hit submit listing, and you should be all done, and we'll contact you if there are any issues there. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen. Kristen, do you want me to stop screen sharing, or do you want to have access to the form for a bit?
Yeah, I think if you can turn off screen share for a minute and then
Okay.
but keep that form on standby in case we need to come back to it. And then let me just make sure that you're going to need to give me screen share access. But while you are doing that, we are going to just take a peek at the actual print marketplace just for reference. So if you've never had one of these or seen one, this is what we're working with. So these are the half-page size listings. And I know that me holding this up to the camera is like not at all the best way to show this information, but this is just, to get an idea of how big is it the premium listing? That's the half page. This is the highest tier. So you can see like this horse, they had a really lovely under saddle photo. So that to better answer your question from before, Wendy, if you've got great photos, like really stunning photos that show off your horse really well, that's when I would definitely consider one of these bigger listings, because you want your buyers, as they're flipping through this catalog, to see that and go, oh, wow, I need to go see that horse. So that's one way you can decide if you want that enhanced listing or not. But you can see that this had 2 photos available. So the big main photo and a smaller photo. So that if you have great photography and a really stunning horse, this is a nice way to highlight more of those. Every ad does come with this QR code. So you can scan it with a smartphone. It's going to open your full listing on the computer. So that's where they can then, have access to the videos and all the photos and your full length ad. But this, for a lot of people, is going to be their first time interacting with your horse if they've just picked up a catalog at the makeover. So you want to make this really work for you. So these are the regular listings. They're about a quarter page each. You get 1 photo, but then the same QR code and all that same basic information. So it's like, if you're on Twitter, it's a tweet length that you get to use for that description. So you really got to pack a lot into a short block of text, but definitely doable. And remember, all of that information is already pulled out for you. So yeah, Wendy, I don't have a great yes, do this, not that answer for you, but hopefully that just helps provide a little more information and some options for you there. So, all right, I am going to find the right thing to share, and there we go. Okay. So first, I just want to show you guys where you can find tons of additional resources for putting together a strong listing or preparing your horse, and your photography and your video and everything for this process. So if you go to the rrp.org under the education menu, tap education library, tap buying and selling, and then go to selling OTTBs. We have a pretty good selection of articles to read. A lot of it is tips and tricks on how to take good photos. We have recordings of past webinars. We've sort of stopped trying to reinvent the wheel and do the same webinar over and over and over again, which is why we've sort of combined this with like an actual how to do the form, because confirmation photography really hasn't changed, right? Like we all know how to stand a horse up, how to frame a good photo, like what angles to work at. The trick is sometimes training yourself to recognize that. I've taken plenty of photos where I'm like, that's a great confirmation photo. And then I look at it later and I'm like, this looks like a hot dog. Like, I don't know what I was thinking at the time. So some of it is training your eye to really see that. So we do have, this is a good one to start with, how to take a jaw-dropping confirmation photo. A confirmation photo still remains kind of the gold standard for presenting your horse to potential buyers. Buyers like to see confirmation. They like to see all 4 legs, kind of the style, the body type of a horse, and that lets them imagine that horse in their discipline of choice, which especially for some of these horses in their first year of free training, they can still go in a few different directions. So if you just present them as a horse, that still allows them to kind of follow their own potential. It doesn't sort of shoehorn them into a specific discipline. That said, if you do have that you're sitting on a great $40,000 dressage prospect, you can present that horse like a dressage prospect, which might mean, is it the bigger button braids that dressage does? I'm a ranch rider. I'm really sorry, y'all. You might put that horse in a dressage bridle to stand him up. You might consider doing the 4 white polo wraps, although I might also consider leaving those legs uncovered so that people can really get a good look at the legs. But if like your horse already has an established show record in a discipline, you can also present that horse in the discipline that you believe he should be sold into. So you have some choice there as a seller. But this How to Take a Jaw-Dropping Confirmation Photo is a great article to start with if you're newer to this process. Some of these are just general background articles if you're new to horse selling. We do have recordings of 2 webinars that we did in 2021 and 2022. 2022, we had Claire Mansman, who's a makeover veteran. I think a lot of people are familiar with her in the group and in person. It's also her birthday. Happy birthday, Claire. She writes a very good ad, and they sell a lot of horses every year. So she presented her take on putting together a good ad in that webinar. And then we had Erin Gilmore talking about photography, and Erin Gilmore is also our featured show photographer this year. So that's a nice throwback. In 2021, we had Karen Smith from BigEck.com. So that's like serious horse sales, talking about how to put together a good listing. And then we had Bethany P. Photography, Bethany Pastoral, come on to talk about confirmation photos. And that half hour where Bethany's on will blow your mind if you think you know confirmation photography. Like I was like, I know this. And then I was like, oh my gosh, watching her go through it. So that's a really interesting one as well, especially if you like to consume your information in webinar form. Definitely give those 2 a watch. Last year, we wrote horse listing pitfalls and how to avoid them. This is a good one for learning to recognize a good confirmation photo from an okay confirmation photo, from a really unflattering confirmation photo, and then a couple of other places that you can kind of go wrong with ads. A lot of us embarrassed our horses for this one, so definitely give that one a click. There's a lot of really bad photos of Jobber in there. And then just on Monday, we released Selling the Transitioned Thoroughbred. So this is a good one for makeover trainers because these horses really are, I don't want to say fully transitioned because that implies that horses are finished, and I don't think horses are ever really finished, but horses that have had that letdown, they've had that first year of retraining, they've gone through the makeover. So this is a really good one. We consulted with 2 experts who are both makeover veterans and have a ton of experience selling horses further along in that process. So that's a really good one to read through, and I'm going to reference a couple of things that I learned in that process in the rest of the webinar today. So definitely click through to that selling page, give some of these a read through as you're preparing to write your ad and get those confirmation photos. And hopefully that'll just sort of help round out everything we're talking about today. I'm going to turn the screen share back off. And then if I need that screen again, Rayna, I'll just holler. But now you guys get to just watch us talk at you for a while. So in general, great listings have 2 things. They have great copy, which is the words, and they have great visuals, which is the photo and the video. So I'm going to dive into the copy first because I'm a writer by trade. When you are describing or you've selected that level of training in your ad, like let's say off-property schooling experience, I think is the first one, right, Rayna? The copy that you're writing about the horse should match that, right? So if your horse has never been off property, you probably don't want to select that he has off property mileage. If you selected that your horse has a show record, you'd have to back that up, and say like where he's been, how he's done. It's okay if his show record's not great. People just want to know that he's been off property and done the thing. When you're describing that competition experience, you don't have to get into huge detail about like what show you went to, but if your horse was in the ribbons at a 2-6 open show, like that's great to know. If your horse has recognized experience, you just want to jot all these things down. And then you really want to focus, especially for that short entry in the magazine, on what is going to set your horse apart. There are probably going to be about 100 horses for sale. It's a huge horse shopping opportunity for buyers. So that means your horse needs to stand out to grab that buyer's attention. So that might be things like, yes, we know amateur friendly, but, I'm just going to read some as an example here, actually, because I'll just let these ads speak for themselves. Super sporty, compact, upper level prospect, ready to continue his training and show career with an eager rider, has a jump and canter to die for. That's a good one. Adventurous horse looking for a new partner, experience in trails, camping, mounted shooting, and cattle work. That's great because those are things that you're not going to necessarily select from that potential list. Currently doing 2-6 hunters with potential for more, eager to learn and please, easy enough for a junior amateur, but fancy enough for a pro. That checks a bunch of boxes in a very short little sentence. So you just have to think about like, what makes this horse special? Why should a buyer spend their time on that horse specifically? And then condense it down. If you need some inspiration, read some Ernest Hemingway. He's very good at shrinking all that text. And then, you know, this is just sort of like a pet peeve. I see a lot of like phrases come up year after year. Everyone loves to describe their show hunter as a hack winner. They cannot statistically all be hack winners. It's just not possible. So, you know, if you do not have that blue ribbon from the hack, it's probably not a hack winner. You know, there's a lot of phrases that we love to recycle from horse ads. We see it all the time, and it's really easy to fall into that rut of language. But again, you want your ad to stand out. So don't just keep borrowing from other people's ads and, you know, those same old phrases, because they sort of lose their meaning. They lose their power over time. Being honest, you know, like I know we all think that buyers want a perfectly clean PPE. They don't want any old injuries. I think the kind of buyers that we're attracting to the marketplace are thoroughbred savvy people. They understand that like an ocelot isn't the end of the world. An old bow isn't the end of the world. You want to be really honest when you're describing things like past injuries or PPE concerns. And then also just be honest, you know, on what that horse can do and has done. And even though you want to put your best foot forward and, you know, we're all afraid to be like, oh, I don't want to say he's a mild cribber. If you don't disclose that, that's going to put that horse in a position where he's more likely to end up in a not great situation. So if you're honest right off the bat, that's going to protect you as the seller. It's going to protect your potential buyer, but most importantly, it's going to protect your horse. So, you know, we all want to see these horses end up in the best places possible. So if you disclose whatever you can, not necessarily in that 150 character box, but in the ad, or you're willing to discuss that with your buyers, like that's just going to put your horse into the best possible situation long term. Another place where I think people tend to go a little bit awry is they look at that list of disciplines and they have a horse that's got a good foundation, and they look at the horse and they think, well, this horse could really go in any direction. So when they put their listings together, they check every single box for potential. I will say it is probably unlikely that a horse, like let's say you have a 17-2 big dreamboat hunter type, he's not full enough down the hunter path, you know, where you're like, oh, he's a finished hunter, so I'm going to select he has polo potential. Realistically, your 17-2 hand hunter type mover probably does not have polo potential. I see a lot of people just sort of check all those boxes because they're like, oh, it's going to grab as many buyers as possible. What it's going to do is make buyers look at that ad and think like, I don't think this horse is really very well rounded, or this person really doesn't understand, you know, how they're selling. This person doesn't understand what my sport is looking for. So be pretty honest about what you think the horse has potential for. If you think the horse has potential in eventing or jumping or hunters or any of those over fences disciplines, you need to be prepared to defend that. Like if someone comes up and they're like, oh, you said this horse has show hunter potential, you know, how high have you competed in? How high are you schooling? And you're like, well, I've never tried him over fences. Probably don't want to be selecting that he has potential over fences unless you've had maybe an experienced friend in those disciplines pop the horse around a couple of fences, or you've run him through a jump chute and then you have the photos and the videos to prove it. Whatever you select for potential, you want to be prepared to back that up. Just, you know, bring the receipts. That's all you need to do. That's going to apply to your visuals as well. So if you are putting a horse in, you know, that says you have show experience, you don't necessarily have to go out and buy the show photography, although that is a great way to get super print quality photos at a pretty good price. But you want to make sure that your visuals are backing up what your copy is already saying. So if your horse is schooling 2-6 at home, probably want to have a photo or a video of that happening. You know, if the horse is schooling first level maneuvers, like show us that, but with a caveat there, like schooling is not the same as finished. So you may not want to be putting like finished or a video of that horse schooling a first level maneuver, because chances are then buyers are going to pick that apart and be like, well, this horse doesn't really look like he's finished in that. Well, you didn't say he was finished. You said he was schooling. But if you put it out into the world, people are going to pick it apart. So your videos, you probably want to be showing your most finished level of training, your most finished maneuvers, skill sets, whatever they are for your respective discipline. If they're not finished, don't show it. But you can also take that video and have that available to buyers should they ask. You know, if you've got someone sending you emails and they're really seem to be kind of on board and they want to know more, you can explain to them like, okay, I have video of this. It's not finished, but we're schooling, but this is to give you an idea. Just maybe save that for that second level of communication. Rayna, are you raising your hand?
I just have a little comment about like the videos themselves. So I think as a buyer, if you're marketing your horse as amateur friendly or junior friendly, I think that your videos specifically back that up. And I think it would be great to contrast that. So if you were an amateur yourself, have a video of yourself riding the horse, but also have a video of a professional riding your horse so people can see what the horse looks like in different circumstances with different riders and show that they are truly amateur friendly, to give that contrast. But make sure to include that information that, hey, in this video, this horse is being ridden by a professional. In this video, this horse is being ridden by an amateur. And you can maybe have the professional show a little bit of higher level movements than you yourself would show. Don't like it, just similar to what you said, Kristen, of like, show what the horse is ready to do, what you've already done with the horse. But perhaps if someone else can bring out the best in your horse, have them hop on the horse for a video as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think especially for junior friendly, because junior friendly, that can be kind of a loaded phrase, right? Like, what level of junior are we talking about? like fearful 14-year-old junior me who face planted at every fence is very different from like a junior who's like, showing the big X. So you might want to specify like, what kind of junior are we talking about? And then, if you have a junior who's willing to hop on that horse and grab a video, like even better. So yeah, that's a great point, Rayna. Thank you. So yeah, we talked about, your visuals matching your copy. And the other thing we see a lot of is, I think people see all those fields for photos and they think like, I want to fill all these fields and show as much as possible. This is an opinion shared by the professionals that we talked to for that selling article. Nothing looks like you don't really take your horse seriously more than like a blurry video still. We get a lot of those every year where people just, for whatever reason, don't have a photo. So they have a video they set up in an indoor arena, maybe across from the wall, and it's a little blurry. And if you shrink it to about this big, it looks okay. And then you go to expand it and it's a blurry, grainy photo. It doesn't really show the horse well. And yet they're asking, maybe a $20,000, $25,000 price tag. That is not a $20,000 to $25,000 photo. So if you want to take your horse and its pricing seriously, then take the whole ad seriously. It's going to make you look more professional and polished as a seller, and that you're going to take your buyer's experience seriously as well and really work with them to find, a good match. So just put a little, and, I'm not saying everyone needs to run out and drop like $500 on a photography session, because that's not feasible for a lot of us either, including myself. But you just want to take it seriously. If you can spring it, or even if you have a friend with like some good photo experience to come out and take confirmation photos for you, it is well worth investing a little bit of money in those good photos to really grab that buyer's eye. You want to use that before you try to grab like a blurry video still. It just is not a good impression to make on buyers. So in your videos, we have ample resources on that selling page on how to take some good videos, but generally speaking, buyers are going to want to see the 3 basic gaits. So walk, trot, canter, walk, jog, or lope if you are a Western rider. And that doesn't mean you have to show the horse walking a complete lap in every direction, because that will take 5 minutes and you will lose people right away. The walk can be shown as a transition between gaits. They just want to see the quality of the walk, but they don't need to see you walk 1.5 miles. Transitions are great to show in both directions, and then, a circle or 2 at every gate in both directions. You don't need to show miles and miles of trucking around the arena. And then from there, get into your specialized discipline-specific skills, whatever those may be. So, for a trail horse, it's going to be tackling a range of obstacles. For a ranch horse, it's probably going to be your cattle exposure and your ranch obstacles. For barrels, they're going to want to probably see a lope through on a pattern, whether you're running full speed or just schooling. Competition video is great to use here as well. And again, like, if you show alone and you don't have anyone to grab a video of you at the horse show and you only have schooling video, that is great. That's still is fine. It is good to show the horse in a show competition if you can. But again, if all you've got is, the friend at the barn to grab your schooling video at home, that's fine as well, because that's still going to show, where the horse is at in his training, and then, the potential for more. So to get into Wendy's question on pricing, I wish I could say, give you guys a formula like take your months of training times what you spent on the horse and multiply by this with a coefficient, but there is no formula for pricing, unfortunately. So a good way to think of it that I learned from Lindsay Gilbert, who was one of our experts we interviewed for this selling article, she looks at price brackets. And she wants to give herself a little bit of a wiggle room for buyers to negotiate, because buyers like to feel like they're getting a deal. So if she's willing to take $8,000 for a horse, she might price it at 10, but she won't go above 10 because that's going to roll that horse into the low fives, which is a different bracket of buyer and a different budget than the people that are looking for upper fours. So you just don't want to price your horse into the next bracket, because you're going to lose kind of your target buying audience, but you can pad it and give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. So there's a difference between giving yourself wiggle room to say, like, I would take 15 for this horse, so I'm going to list him for 30. That's probably not going to give you a whole, that's going to be a completely different tier of buyer than if you're like, I would take 15, so I'm going to list him for 18.5, let's say. So if you are staying maybe within that kind of 5,000 price budget range, that's going to find sort of your target market. And then the buyer can negotiate with you and kind of feel like they've gotten a deal, when in reality, you're getting to the price you would take them for all along. But again, difference between, you know, pricing way up into the mid fives when you would take low fives, and pricing into the upper range of low fives to end up with the 5-figure price you wanted. Does that make sense, Wendy? I'll give her a minute to type her answer. So yeah, hard to say, you know, and then you also have to look at the market. I was answering a question just this morning in the Western Thoroughbred group. Someone was asking, like, is there a market for like cow savvy thoroughbreds? And I was like, not necessarily, like, purely anecdotal, not necessarily for people seeking cow savvy thoroughbreds, but people seeking a good cow horse and it happens to be a thoroughbred, yes. So that might also affect your pricing, you know, and you have to think of what specific market you're trying to reach out for. So the Selling the Transition Thoroughbred article on our selling page has a good section on pricing. So Lindsay's argument was what I just pulled out because I thought that was particularly impactful, but they also advise, you know, you can look at what similar horses at similar experiences are going for, but then you also have to consider that those people may not want to sell, and they may also have reasons that they're not publishing for why a horse is priced the way that it is. So you want to look at a big range of prices to kind of find that sweet spot in the middle. So I do know in the past, like, if a buyer shows up with a trailer and cash in hand, you know, you might be willing to take a little less if it means that horse can leave at the end of the makeover and go home with them. And then you have an empty slot in your trailer to go get another prospect. So, you know, your level of like negotiation for a price is completely up to you. But yeah, we've seen all kinds, you know, we've seen horses leave from the makeover, and then we've seen horses go home and then they sell at home. And then a lot of times horses sell before they get to the makeover, which is always exciting. We love to put that big sold sign on the Facebook page that also helps create a little more like, ooh, we should go to the sale. Horses are selling for other buyers. So that also comes back to reporting your sale. Please let us know if your horse is selling at the makeover, before the makeover, or after the makeover. So all good data for us. All right, I'm gonna quick open the Facebook page and just make sure nobody has questions over there, even though we're not streaming there, in case people got stuck. I don't see questions. So if you guys have questions now who are watching live in Zoom, please drop them for us. And Rayna, if there's anything else I didn't get to that you thought of, let me know. Don't see anyone else in the group who's lost, so that's good.
I think pricing is one of those really tricky things. But at the end of the day, no one wants to hear this, but you're never going to make back what you put into the horse. So don't, you know, that's for all horse selling. Don't look at the sale for, okay, well, I spent this much on board every month, and here's all my vet bills, and this is every lesson I've taken, and now that's my selling price. It's really going, you're listing your horse for sale for their potential and the skills that they've earned, not the money you have put into them. And so I think that that's an important way to look at it, in just thinking about what you would be willing to part with the horse into a good home for. And yeah, there's going to be a wide range of prices. A lot of the time that's discipline dependent. You know, different disciplines have different cultures and what they're willing to pay for horses. And that's another reason why I think it's important to not just necessarily check every single has potential for box. you definitely, like Kristen, like you said, you want to target a specific audience. And there is an audience for a very versatile, just kind of pleasure horse. Absolutely. But that is very different from your upper level jumper. Those are going to be priced very differently. They're going to have very different skill sets and experience. So the exact price can vary a lot, but I think it's important to not try to make it too personal about what your personal investment was, and rather what the horse has potential for.
Yeah, we do get every year, and we know this and we accept this as a reality, where people will let us know, they're like, this is the, I told my husband he's for sale price, which is fine. But again, if you do that and you need to do that, we totally get it, because that's how I started out. Now my husband has his own makeover graduate, so that really worked out for me. But if you were going to do that and you want to list that horse for like a mid 5-figure price, just please do us the respect of making that look like a 5-figure listing. So it is a really hard sell for us to get buyers to the marketplace when they look through and they're like, all these horses are listed for $35,000 and none of the photos are even very good. You know, just do us the mutual respect, because we work really hard to try to get people to the makeover, to get them to come out, to make sure that you guys are just producing a good listing. Even if you're like, I really don't want to sell this horse, like, I get it. None of mine are for sale either. So if I were forced to list them for sale, I'd be putting a big sticker on there too. It'd be the money you can't refuse price. But just, you know, make it look like that's what that horse is worth, because it is what they're worth. Like, yes, ultimately, like if someone walks up and wants to give you $35,000, like I would, yeah, probably, you know, have to do that too. But again, I want my listing to look like that. Like I take that and my horse seriously. So that is all we're encouraging everybody to do. So
I also forgot to mention this earlier, that you can update your online listing. So I think that set your price now for what you would be willing to take for the horse, you know, like within that range that Kristen was talking about, come makeover time, come like end of the week at the makeover, recognizing that that's going to be what's in the print catalog. You want that to be a number that, one, you're setting, you are proving through photos and videos and ad content. But also that is, you're going to be willing to take at that time. That's going to be in the print catalog. However, if your horse doesn't sell at the makeover, that listing is going to be available for you for a couple months after the makeover. And we know that their price, their value probably will go up from there. You might get them to more shows, more clinics, whatever it is. They might start jumping higher.
you might win the makeover.
You might win,
and then you can be like makeover champion for sale, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you can go in and you can change that price at any time, but know that whatever price you set come August 15th is what's going to be in the print catalog. But there's that QR code that will direct them to the online listing, which will have the most updated form of the listing. So if you get more videos at any point, you can swap out video links for more updated ones. If you get better photos, you can swap out for better photos. That online listing is pretty live and fluid, and it will be available to you for several months. So please update it as you do more things with your horse and as you collect better photos and videos. But get good photos and videos now for the initial listing as well.
Yeah, that is like the number one thing that draws the buyer's eye, is a good quality photo, especially if they're looking at that print catalog and then they just want to see that the horse they're looking at is within that sort of bracket price-wise that they are trying to stick into. So yeah, Wendy, hopefully that helps answer your question. I know we can't give you like, we can't tell you like, you should price your horse at X, because we don't know, you know, and you may have other factors going into it too. So thanks, Wendy. All right, anybody else have questions? Last round before we wrap it up right at 2. Hopefully everyone's typing.
And if you don't and you think of one later, you can email us. secretary@brrp.org is the best way to reach us. We also have a contact us form. So I'm going to ramble a little bit while we waste a little time to see if anyone has any questions. But we are very approachable. You can reach us. And I also wouldn't be afraid to reach out to your fellow makeover trainers for help with stuff like pricing your horse. And, you know, if reaching out to someone local to help take some videos or good pictures. It's a great community and you should lean on them. And I'm sure they would be just as happy to help as we are.
Actually, I would love to see that because I think like we have some sort of pockets of trainers and communities. And I bet if you all like pooled your money for a photographer at one location, like pick whoever has the prettiest farm and get a good photographer lined up, and you could just like batch like 6 makeover marketplace horses all in one day. Like, you know, like we reference Claire Mansman, but usually they have, you know, 2, 3, 4 prospects for sale. So that's how they do it. Let's Mid-Atlantic Horse Rescue does it that way with all of their horses that they're putting through. So it's a fun way to do it. You know, and you can kind of utilize all your community and make the most of your resources there that way. So, and then, you know, kind of a fun play day too. Everybody gets together, everybody, then you can saddle up, video each other. So
exactly. Do some horse swaps, show how your horses with different riders.
Now I want to like, want to go to one. So if any of you guys are hosting one, please let me know. I want to come hang out. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for the time. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have more questions, reach out at secretary@therrp.org. And if you are watching this recording, shoot us an email and we would love to help you out. Have a good one.
Thank you all.